Hello and welcome, brothers and sisters of the multiverse. Today I want to talk about training empathy. I know. I know what I mean by that. The thing is, I'm gonna use the metaphor of movies because everyone walks around in the world being the main character of his own story. And rarely ever even thinks about, much less feels what other people feel from their perspective and their backgrounds. And that's what we feel too, often misunderstood, right? And I also hear many people say movies start to suck. Well, if you can't do without them, if you're still watching anyway, because it's better than silence, right? I have a suggestion. You can even watch things that you already watched, but not from the main character perspective. Try to put yourself in the shoes of a side character. And watch how your perception shifts towards the main character and to the overall story. And that way you can watch a movie even 10 times, being or identifying every time with another side character. And you get 10 different movies out of one. One can learn how one's values and worldviews and meanings and priorities that differ between us first get relative. And that's already a big realization, because that lessens the I'm always right attitude, right? But also, when you think even further, there is kind of a silver lining of starting to discern, even through that relativity, what's better and what's worse. Another thing one can try is imagine the world where everyone is like that character, has that characteristics, has that values, has that worldviews, has that priorities and such. How the world would be And so for every other character too. A little example, someone who is too agreeable and always say like, I don't know, you choose. Imagine a world full of them. It would never be something decided, right? It would be always a, no, you decide, no, you decide, right? But let's take the opposite, for example. Someone who always has to get his will, right? Imagine a world full of them. It would be war over everything, right? Always. They would never agree because, I mean, okay, if they have the same priorities, but also the way in which something is done, then, you know, that there will be always something. You can do that with every single type of human, introverts and extroverts and spiritual ones and scientists and all of, you know, and then watch what happens within you. And you do it like 10 or 20 times. Watch a movie like that from all the different perspectives and all the different characters, and put yourself really in their shoes. Not just the mindset, but also the emotions, the hopes and fears and everything. It lets us know ourselves and others better. And therefore, empathy naturally evolves. That's the thing, right? We don't have, or we don't take our time to reflect. We don't take time to think. After one movie, we just jump to the next, and not even critically evaluate the subtle and less subtle messages of the movie. Watch through the main character. They're always right. Those are the ones you should identify with. You should. Who decides that and why is another topic, right? But when 98% of movies have the same messages, you get that kind of society that thinks that way because it was the main character. That is going on for decades and decades. Why we are where we are. And yes, there are bigotries. about those views, because people still see different, but they don't see how both sides are played. Even the other side is played. It's just another layer of realization. It's not the end epiphany. And empathy is rarely taught in those movies in the right way, or for the right reasons, or for the right causes, or then we can even start with our close ones. Just pause for a second and not react, but reflect on where people are coming from with something. And maybe try to meet them halfway. Acknowledge where they're coming from. Alone, that little sentence before you start. Okay, I see what you mean. I know where you're coming from. I know that you're worried about that, or want to have that outcome, or are afraid of that it's gonna happen or something. Just acknowledging what the other means to tell you. But the first thing is to even know, to even care, to even start to try to understand the other person, right? We lose even that. With all that bombardment of noise and overstimulations, we lose even that. And we have to bring it back. Just think, just take a few seconds. And for those who don't know, watch all day long 10-second clips that were cut 10 times because they made a nanosecond pause before saying something else. Then it just goes like a machine gun. And it cuts and people's brains are trained to expect that. That's unnatural. A brain that is trained for that will find everyone who thinks before he speaks too slow. Not even trying to understand what they're trying to tell you, but just a nanosecond was boring. Next. It's ridiculous. I mean, you need time. Everyone needs time to think and to reflect of what the other is even saying. Not what you hear or what you want to hear or what you fear to hear. What that person is actually saying. You should start with that. Just saying for those who didn't get the memo, empathy is a few steps ahead of that. To feel, to learn, to remember when we were ourselves in similar situations as others, and to see them through that lens, to understand them, how they feel, what they think, what they, what, you know, what's swirling in their head right now, and what helps and what not. But mostly you see people who are not calm. Everyone's heads are swirling with 1,000 things a day. All the time, it's always something. They all seem to have silence as the arch nemesis. But that's natural. I mean, silence is natural. Silence is needed. Pauses are needed. Our brains, our psyche is not built for constant overstimulation. We only lose even in the short term, not to mention long term. Without pause, without reflection, without that empathy, what kind of world remains? I don't believe any of us wants that world. You're already seeing the consequences of the decline of empathy in society. And the reverse Flynn effect, right? That makes it even harder. The more information we have, the less intelligent we seem to be. But that's another story. Let's start with coming back to ourselves. Take our time to reflect and train that empathy again. For all of us. All of us, for all of us. It's worth it. And when we calm down, when we get back to ourselves again, and realize we don't need it. We can survive the withdrawal symptoms. We can. It's not gonna be easy, like with any other withdrawal, but we need to be brave enough to dare. It's curious to see that people do have it, but only to a handful. And in that handful, there's like 50% pets, not people. People have more empathy with their pets than other people. And it's a good thing. We should have, right? But we are humanoids. If we can love our furry creatures, why can't we love another human being? They're not evil. They're mostly either ignorant or afraid or just too distracted or well, people say they don't care. They do care. Not necessarily about you, but they're also hurt. And they care about not getting hurt again, so they close up. And the only way we can ever get through to them is through empathy. It's through understanding how and why they are how they become. They were not born this way. They become this way. And not taking it automatically on autopilot as something personal. That would help. How about that? How about we just try again? I hope we can. Love you, brothers and sisters.